live. Oh, yes, we are live. Let's have a here for the audio. How's the audio coming on through? Well, I'm about to find out. Hopefully, yes, it's coming through perfectly, and my screen isn't as fuzzy as it has been in the past. It is a miracle to behold. Awesome. All right. Well, let's get started with somewhat of an impromptu, well, weekly. This is indeed the attempted weekly live stream, but somewhat impromptu since I didn't put up any sort of notices earlier, and that just comes from it's been a crazy week on my end. Not just simply, hey, look, we had 3 videos come out today. I mean, that helped to contribute to it, but just, yeah, there's been a lot happening behind the scenes. Things have gotten really busy in the life of Lars. And of course, everyone else in the harem is also really busy as well. But I saw an opportunity to still do the live stream for this week, and I thought that I would take it. And given how uh, for some of the anime that we've been keeping up with, such as the Apothecary Diaries and The Dangers of My Heart, we have the weekly reviews and analyses for those anime. I don't really feel like the need to rehash those, and some of the other anime, like it's been fun, it's been great watching it, but I felt like today what I would really want to talk about is I want to address MatPat's final film theory video, which was incredibly poignant. I just have to say this before I start pontificating and speculating and talking and reviewing, talking history, talking literature right here on the subject that MatPat brought up. I just gotta say this: it was interesting to see how MatPat went out on his own, like in his own way, where there were theories that he had wanted to talk about that he knew he could not really do without either having a real dip in viewership for them or getting a ton of flack for them. And so, talking again about Bill Cipher, and because like for a lot of people, it's like, yeah, like we've already had that. That's over. Why are you bringing this on up again? Like that was one that's like, I'm just doing it because I want to talk about it, or I'm going to talk about the overall aspect of game theory and how this relates to YouTubers. It's like, okay, like I can get that, right? I can get that. Like he wanted to touch on things that for him, MatPat meant a lot. Either they were incredibly personal to him because of the history he had with a certain property or with certain characters or with a certain idea, or it was just a chance for him to be like, hey, you know what? There's this thing that I've always just really, really wanted to talk about, and now I'm going to seize that opportunity. I'm going to talk about it, and no one can tell me no because I am retiring from being a talking head on YouTube. So MatPat was able to go on his own steam in his own way, and his final film theory was a very interesting one to get, talking about like positive male representation in in well, I'm going to say in literature in general. He was looking at overall entertainment from shows to movies, and that is a topic that really does need to be explored further. And I realized that this was something that I did want to talk about when I went with Nathan and Scott to the Tucson Festival of Books recently, which was a great experience. If you ever get the chance to drop down to Tucson at the beginning of March when the Tucson Festival of Books is going on, I highly recommend that you do. You drop on by because it is the nation's largest book festival, and there's just so much to do. So many great things, lots of authors out and about. It is a great time. So I kind of figured that as far as notifications would go, this is kind of off the cuff right here. So if people are not getting notifications, I kind of understand, especially because I just quickly put this together and whoop, here we go. So to reiterate for people who are just now popping on in, I want to talk about the last subject that MatPat brought up in his last film theory video. And I realized that this was something that I really wanted to talk about after going to the Tucson Festival of Books and having a chance to go to a panel of authors talking about monsters in love. Well, not just monsters in love, but monsters and love in literature. And there was a lot of conversation almost immediately about representation, about queer representation, about minority representation, female representation, and it was an excellent conversation. The interesting thing is that one of the authors jokingly was like, "I always get asked, well, where are the white men?" And then immediately the entire panel just started collapsing into laughter, and he's just like, "Yeah, there's an entire history of books that you can go ahead and read. There they are. They're there for you." And I can understand where the guy's coming from. But we then had a conversation as a group afterwards of all like what we liked about the panel, what our insights were. And we were talking about how there's actually a point to be had. Where are the guys? I'm not just going to say white guys, but like, where are the guys? And this was the topic of MatPat's last film theory video. Specifically, where are the male role models? Where are the male characters that he could put his young son in front of and have him watch it either by himself or with him, with MatPat, and with his wife, with Steph, and that they could enjoy positive male representation of any kind of variety that would be inspiring to their son Ollie. And he's like, and he posed this question: Can you think of a positive male role model like right off the top of your head? He's like, I'll wait. Can you name 5? And so I remember when watching it, I was all like, oh yeah, so positive, and I listed off actually quite a few, and then later on he said positive male role models who don't have to fight to show their worth or to do something good, that they don't need to rely on strength and violence to get things done. And it's like, okay, MatPat, I see where you're going with that. And I thought it was interesting how his son Ollie, for instance, actually requested to stop watching Phineas and Ferb, even though his dad and his mom love Phineas and Ferb, because he just started getting so anxious that Phineas and Ferb were going to get caught and get in trouble because they were doing stuff that they're not supposed to do behind their mom's back. And so while all of the shenanigans of being on summer vacation and doing all of their crazy things are just a ton of fun, like from a kid's perspective, from a young kid's perspective, while this is fun, the young kid also realizes that they're breaking the rules, and that's not okay. And so, I mean, hey, good on you, MatPat and Steph, for teaching Ollie that you should obey the rules. That's definitely a good thing. But it got me thinking. Okay, then. So male representation. What should what are we doing with this? And the final nail in the coffin that was like, Lars, you need to talk about this, was that I saw a request today on Camille's last community post asking us to talk about well, actually it wasn't on her post, it was on an older post, asking us to delve into how to write good male characters. And the interesting thing is this, that I said when I did my video on how to write strong female characters, that ultimately what you're doing is you're just building a strong character overall. You're building a well-written character who has depth, who has strengths, weaknesses, a definable personality, specific relationships, that they come across as a person to the reader. And that then it doesn't matter actually what their sex or their gender identification is. You just want to write strong characters. But because people are so afraid of doing a strong female character wrong, let's talk about strong female characters. But what I'm beginning to see more and more often is this. Who is a strong male character? Now, it's very easy to jump back to the 80s and be like, yeah, all the Schwarzenegger movies, amazing. Or to look to something like Lord of the Rings, where you have a lot of very positive male role models. Or look at the X-Men. With the X-Men, you have such a wide variety. I mean, pick your flavor. But MatPat threw out there, what about good male role models who don't have to rely on violence? And that is, I think, where we need to like kind of delve into this conversation and talk about things that MatPat didn't quite address. He came from the perspective of business, that there is not an incentive for shows or for movies to show positive male role models without the violence, because you're trying to sell toys to boys, and boys like action figures, boys like action, boys like things that go pew pew boom. And so that's what we like, and so we want to see strong, heroic, courageous, even violent male heroes. And so it seems as though that crowds out the market for any other male hero. So we're going to talk about that tonight and see where this conversation takes us. ISO, coming around to you. Oh my goodness, I didn't even realize that we were lacking male role models. I was caught in all the types of strong female characters. I mean, and it's not bad that we have now more female representation in fiction, and with some really incredible female characters. And I mean, I myself, I love writing strong female characters. That's fun. That's a lot of fun to do. There's a lot of worth in doing that, but at the same time, yeah, we shouldn't forget the male characters as well. They should be given just as much love and attention as we give to our female characters. And again, to you, ISO, Phineas and Ferb is amazing, but I understand that feeling. Yeah. Yep. Say that. I mean, but when we look at Phineas and Ferb from a logical standpoint, obviously there's a lot of things going on wrong here. This would be a very highly dysfunctional family. But the shenanigans are great, the friendships are great, and Phineas and Ferb are just fun characters. As all the characters are fun. Even down to Dr. Doofenshmirtz. If I were to think of a positive male role model, I would choose Robert Parr, Mr. Incredible. Mr. Incredible is a fantastic role model, and one of the reasons why I think that Mr. Incredible is a really great role model is because we actually get to see him make some mistakes. He makes some bad assumptions. He makes a selfish decision to be a superhero when he shouldn't be, when he should be focusing on his family, and we get to see the results of that particular action. But he makes up with his family and he does better. And that's a very positive message. That's a message that's applicable to anyone. That if you make mistakes, or if you're selfish at some point, you can make up for that. You can do better. And that when you are able to do that, that is indeed heroic of its own count. So yeah, I agree with you. So Robert Parr, Mr. Incredible, is a positive male role model. But I'm going to address what MatPat threw out there. Like, can you name positive male role models that don't have to rely on violence to get things done? I'm going to give you guys a list, and I know I did not write this out, and no, neither did I stew on it to create this list. So I'm going to give out one that immediately sounds like it's going to be contradictory, but here we go. Frodo Baggins. One of the reasons why I'm going to say Frodo Baggins should be on that list is because, especially if you read the Lord of the Rings trilogy, Frodo abhors violence. And very, very seldom does he actually rely on using the sword sting to get himself out of a situation. The only times that Frodo gets violent is when he absolutely must, when there's no other option. Otherwise, Frodo uses intelligence. He uses his ability to speak to people, to get to know others. Frodo relies on strong alliances, and he relies on just smarts in order to get himself out of bad situations and in order to work out difficult situations as well. This actually makes a lot of the hobbits really angry at him during the scouring of the Shire, because Frodo actually steps in to protect a lot of ruffians and bandits brought in by Saruman. He prevents the hobbits from murdering them during the scouring of the Shire. So Frodo is, I would say, a very positive male role model within fiction, who does not rely on violence and his strength to get things done. Instead, he relies on his character, his intelligence, his friends, communication. And that is very positive. And I'll give you another one right here. Brother Bear from the Berenstain Bears. This is a very positive male role model for kids because Brother Bear, especially in the old cartoons, was written as your typical kid who is going to get into trouble. He's going to fight with his sister. He might talk back to his parents. But in each episode of the Berenstain Bears, where Brother Bear is one of the focal characters, we get to see Brother Bear grow and learn what is right and what is wrong. And that's very positive right there. And Brother Bear isn't going out and fighting people, beating them up. Brother Bear, Brother Bear from Berenstain Bears, excellent male role model, especially for young children. Then what about Papa Smurf from the Smurfs? Papa Smurf, though Papa Smurf does at times have to put down his foot, sometimes he does have to use his wizardy abilities to help save the other Smurfs. Papa Smurf relies again on communication, knowledge, understanding, obeying rules, talking things out with people. Papa Smurf is a good character. He's a good male role model that you can look up to. I mean, there are some episodes where Papa Smurf definitely loses his temper and whatnot and does something he shouldn't, but hey, that just goes to show that this is a well-written character because he has his weaknesses. He has his moments of weakness that he has to overcome. So that's really good. And then another positive male role model comes down to I'm going to throw the Care Bears. And a good example, actually, amongst the Care Bears, there's two. You have Grumpy and you have Tenderheart. And Tenderheart, of course, lives up to his namesake of being the nice one who talks things out with everyone. He is always presented as the character within the Care Bears who relies again on communication, on figuring things out. He tries to solve all of the problems that the Care Bears and the kids face by being a responsible leader. And then you got Grumpy, and Grumpy is predisposed to being grumpy, to looking at the glass half empty, rather than the glass half full. That's just Grumpy's way of doing things. However, we always get to see him rising to the occasion, doing what is right for other people, and learning how to be a good friend. And he actually ends up being, if you watch the old 80s Care Bears, he's actually the Care Bear that a lot of the kids usually come back to get inspiration, to get help, and because Grumpy ends up becoming just so personable over the course of the story. So already right there, and again, I don't have any list, but there are a lot of characters who are indeed positive. The interesting thing is that you begin to quickly realize that a lot of these positive male role models are from cartoons. Now that's where it begins to get interesting. Okay, so why in cartoons? Why do we then have such a dearth of positive male role models who don't have to rely on violence in, let's say, live action or in superhero stories, stuff like that? Well, it kind of comes with the genre itself, superhero. Then, of course, they're going up against big bad guys. There's these massive problems that are going to require they're going to require a load of strength, superpowers, special abilities, cool gadgets in order to help save the day and take care of people. That's what you expect within a superhero story. So then what about live action? This is where we get something that just really, really bugs me and annoys me all the time, is how people view cartoons as strictly for kids, and that live action is therefore more adults. And so that's, I think, why, for instance, you find just way more positive, nonviolent male role models in cartoons than you will ever find in live action. And I don't agree that cartoons are just for kids. I think that's wrong. The entire anime industry is there to prove you wrong. And then plenty of cartoon features from the West also say otherwise. This is a fun little thing for anyone to go check on out. Go check out to see if the Brave Little Toaster has any sort of warnings content warnings on it before you watch it on Disney Plus. If there isn't any, Disney is being super hypocritical because you have straight up murder, kidnappings, multiple suicides, depression, death from depression, and all of these real and just some insane things are in the Brave Little Toaster. There is so much violence in the Brave Little Toaster. So, and again, cartoons, even when they're made for kids or have the facade of being made for kids, it becomes very clear once you begin watching certain cartoon features or cartoon shows that actually this is probably meant for an older audience, or this is meant to help skew to an older audience. So yeah, it annoys me so much when when I hear people like cartoons are just for kids. Yeah, no. But because of that perception that cartoons are just for kids, it's one of the reasons why you will then find the vast majority of positive male role models in cartoons. Now then, what I would say to MatPat's is that MatPat does have a point that positive male role models are lacking in a lot of modern fiction. And I've had this discussion with my oldest sister multiple times about how over time Hollywood especially has removed the role of the dad. How like it is almost impossible to find a movie or a big show that has a father who is present, who is loving to his kids, who is helpful. There are some like the Mitchells versus the Machines. The Daddy Mitchell, like amazing father. Yes, he's a goof. Yes, he makes mistakes, but he is a caring father. He is knowledgeable. That guy goes through so much for his family. And that's great to see. But he's kind of in the minority. We then, of course, like coming back to Mr. Incredible. Mr. Incredible is a great example of a good dad in modern fiction. But you then become harder pressed to name these characters, to name good fatherly characters within stories. I'd also throw there into the mix Lloyd from Spy Family. I mean, I've already done a video on how Spy Family does the found family trope in a way that actually kind of breaks the found family trope, because while it adheres to the machinations of found family, it very quickly transcends found family and actually goes into legit family. And that's an interesting topic. That's one that I've seen so many people get really touchy on, because found family, both real and in stories, is something that a lot of people need because of their own bad family life, where they've not been accepted by their family for a certain reason, and so it's very important to them. So I don't mean to say that found family is a bad trope when I say that Spy Family breaks the found family trope. But that's honestly the way that is. But anyway, that interesting conversation aside, it's difficult to find good fatherly figures within modern fiction. And it is hard for many reasons to find male role models in fiction that aren't violent. So, meandering my way around to the point, this is one of the things that MatPat is missing, and this is something that that I intend to eventually address in another video, like in a fully scripted video. Is that our perception of a good male role model changes depending on time, culture, and the individual. Yay, listen to all of these qualifiers. which is why for the thumbnail, like I've got the commandos from Predator, and like, is this for kids? Maybe, yeah. Depends on the family that's showing this. Depends on the time. In the 80s, this would have been this actually would have been incredibly positive, and there was actually lot of people are like, yeah, like I took a lot of inspiration from like the strong male characters played by Arnold Schwarzenegger and the likes. So uh so time, culture, and the individual. Let me give an interesting example. Fairy tales. Within fairy tales, actually, never mind. Let's shelve fairy tales for a little bit later. I'm jumping ahead of myself. This is why having a script is really good for a topic set such as this. This is like my sounding board moment. Um, let's actually have a look at real quick on over at Japan with anime. So a lot of strong male characters that people should aspire to be alike, for instance, are actually shown as being a little bit more effeminate, especially in live action. In anime, you can draw characters in all different kinds of ways, but usually in anime as well, like if they want a character to look rough, you will have like the scars, the beard, the furrowed brows, but normally the male characters look very handsome, very comely, very welcoming, even if they might have like a dastardly grin or a sharp glint to their eye to help show that they're either a rogue or a villain or what have you. They're usually made to be quite pleasing to the eye. And it's expected, not just in Japanese culture, but in many East Asian cultures, that your strong male lead and your male role model is actually meant to look a little bit more effeminate, a little bit more pleasing to the eye, which goes against the more Western style of seeing things, where if you're like, ooh, we need a strong man, we're then expecting a Sylvester Stallone kind of character, an Arnold Schwarzenegger kind of character, a Carl Weathers kind of a character, big, gruff, potentially bearded, and just rippling. They're meant to look far older, and they look like they can just clean your clock. But if you were to take that kind of character and show it to a Japanese audience or to a Chinese audience or to a Korean audience and say, this is the guy that you should be rooting for, by watching the story, they'll realize this is the character I'm supposed to be rooting for, but visually speaking, it's different. So already there is an aesthetic difference about what a character should look like. And then how should they act? In terms of honor, honor is something that is important again in East Asian cultures. And different cultures, different nationalities will have various expectations for how a character shows and maintains their honor. Here in the United States, if you ask for how a character should be honorable, you could get anything, right? You could get anything about like what this character should be. Should they be honest? Many times now, honesty is not seen as a very honorable trait. Is it honorable to stand up for others? Depends on how you're doing it. Weirdly enough, the concept of honor here in the States has become rather vague. And true, you can actually sit down and you can say, hey, look, like these are the qualities of honor. Honor is keeping your word. Honor is looking out for other people, especially for people who you realize are weaker or in a worse off situation than you are. Honor shows itself in holding true to your personal values or to your societal values or to your religious values. Like we have the definition for honor, but societally speaking, for how we depict honor here in the United States in our stories, that's become way more vague. You just don't see it quite as often depicted as it might once have been. And so, for a Western audience to watch, for instance, an honorable male lead from an East Asian culture, an East Asian story, they're like, oh my gosh, that's just so alien. I like it. And that's one of the reasons why, for instance, you get so many people be all like, screw Hollywood, just watch anime. Because many anime characters will actually show certain qualities that you just don't see quite as often anymore in Western literature. And that's just because of how things have changed. Take us back 10, 20, 30, but especially like 40 years ago, and the concept of honor would have been way more emphasized for a male lead. And I know that just again, that seems like kind of vague, like maybe I'm grasping at straws, but seriously, look for honorable characters and how honorable and how honor as a theme is treated these days in Western literature, from movies to shows to books. And you'll see that it's a concept that is kind of going out the window. And we now love our anti-heroes and we love our people who go against the grain, who go against what's common decency, either for the laughs or because we want to have like some sort of revenge quest. It's interesting seeing how our values have changed. Coming here to I'm Omega, I see what you just posted right here. To be honest, my brother and I watched Ghost in the Shell standalone complex with our family when we were in the third grade. Yeah. And on that little note right there, again, from like culture to the individual to the time. So when I was growing up, when I was just a kid in the 90s, uh, I loved dinosaurs. Jurassic Park had come out. Oh, and when it came on, when it was premiered on television, like my parents knew, this is a monster flick. It's PG-13. Lars is young. Can he handle it? He's scared of the dark because I watched The Ghost in the Darkness. Definitely not meant for kids. And um, and so they're all like, okay, then, well, you can watch this movie with us, but the moment you start getting scared, you're going straight to bed, young man. And so I watched it. I loved it because hey, it's dinosaurs! Yay, dinosaurs! And it was also edited for television, so a lot of the swearing was gone, a lot of the blood was gone, and so therefore, as a young kid, I was totally fine watching this. So then, my mom, who is German, Europeans with way more loose standards about what they will show to their children, are like, wow, if Lars can handle that, so let's start watching like all the other things. So suddenly, as a kid, then because my mom is just all my mom with her European mentality is like, let's start watching Saving Private Ryan. We're gonna watch Braveheart. All of these really like over the top macho man action packed movies, and so as a little kid, I'm like, oh, I am being completely desensitized. And so my upbringing right there is in part because oh, that's just my mother, from where she comes from, and also her being German. Like for instance, German fairy tales and the likes. German fairy tales are brutal. They have way more blood and violence in them than any Disney movie can shake a stick at, and so like again, that's just what I was raised on. And so my perception of what was of like action, of what was okay, of a male role model, was determined in part by my upbringing and in part by what kinds of things were being shown at that time. So the standards of whatever time a person is in, um, their nation, their own society and culture will help to also determine how they perceive a male role model, and then also their personal upbringing. So, like for instance, again coming back to myself, using myself as an example. Yeah, sure, I watch these very violent, gory movies that nowadays people are like, oh, toxic masculinity. However, at the same time, I had my father, my grandfather, my uncles, and later on, brother-in-law and his family who showed me how a man is supposed to treat women respectfully, tell the truth, obey the law, obey the rules, and along with all of these really over-the-top violent movies, during the daytime, I'm being given Care Bears, Berenstain Bears, the Smurfs. I'm getting a variety to instill upon me an appreciation for all different kinds of entertainment, but also what is who is a guy? What is a guy? What is a guy supposed to do? How are you a good man? There's way more to it than just simply the books that you pick up and read or the movies that you watch. Sure, those can be influential, but it also goes beyond that. Ollie wouldn't have had any problems whatsoever with Phineas and Ferb if MatPat and Steph raised him differently. I'm just going to point that out there. ISO, from what you wrote right here, my parents said the exact same thing to me when we first watched Jurassic Park. My response was to keep my terror to myself. I was allowed to finish the movie, but I had nightmares. On the bright side, I don't really scare easily anymore. Yeah, yeah, I can see that. And oh my gosh, watching the Ghost in the Darkness. What was I thinking? That made me scared of the dark for a long time. And so too did Relic. And Relic is such a dumb movie. Oh my gosh, Relic is so dumb. but man, that stuck with me for a while. That was spooky. And then relatively recently, I went back to like kind of rediscover Relic. I'm like, this movie is dumb. Wow, and it's not even actually all that scary. It's just dumb. But as a kid, you don't know any better. So yeah, just thinking about what makes a good positive male role model. I think that's one of the things that MatPat was missing, is that there's more to it than just simply, ooh, well, what do we want to instill in our children, and what sells toys? Yes, the action figures sell way better than anything Care Bear or Berenstain Bear or Smurf. Let's just be honest. And that comes down to the fact that boys do like action. Boys want to have fun pretending to blow stuff up, be the action guy, and do all that fun, fancy stuff. That's just boys. That not many of them want to sit down and talk over their feelings and make friends via Care Bears. Boys might like things like Care Bears, and that's totally fine. I was raised with four sisters, so I'm very comfortable being around Barbie dolls. That's that's just the point. That's just the case for me right there. I met plenty of guys who would flinch looking at a Barbie while I was growing up, and I'm like, dude, it's just a Barbie doll. Don't be weird. Don't be weird around the Barbie doll. It's not going to awaken any sort of desires in you. I hope. But let me jump back to something where I was like, oh, I'm going out of order right here, and talk about fairy tales. Here's something that historically speaking makes this conversation even more interesting, because because I get to hear all the time from entertainment commentators, especially ones who lean a little bit more to the right, the political rights. Which again, that's a stupid thing. Why on earth are we depicting our politics based on where the French revolutionaries sat? That aside, people who lean a little bit more conservative are like, yeah, all stories about men have embraced this idea of strength, of violence, of going out there and being the breadwinner and protecting people. Yes and no. Uh, and the reason why I say yes and no is because, yes, so many stories across all different kinds of cultures and times have told us that the man is the warrior, that the man is the hero, that the man is the one who's supposed to go on out there and save the day and protect people. That is true. But the moment you get to fairy tales, and fairy tales largely speak to the younger audiences of way back when, fairy tales actually tell boys something very different, because the young men in fairy tales are not depicted often as great warriors. Rather, the young boys in fairy tales, the young men, stories for these boys that are listening to them, they are depicted instead as kind, as ones who obey the rules, as the ones who are smart. In fact, if a boy in a fairy tale is not kind, they are in for a really bad thing to happen to them. If they don't obey the rules, something awful is going to happen to them. If they're not intelligent, they will be taken advantage of by like an evil witch. So in fairy tales, boys are meant to be kind, smart, and they are obedient. And for people from the 1500s to the late 1800s, when they would tell these stories, that is what the young men were supposed to take away from this. That would be their male role model. And so right here we get an interesting dichotomy, where you have these stories that are not expecting the young men to be violent, to be the breadwinners, to be the heroes, to go on out there and save the day. In fact, actually, that idea of the young man going out and saving the day is more the evolution of the adventure genre, which was made popular in the 1800s. In many stories, in many older stories, the idea of the young man going out and becoming the hero, becoming the legend, saving everyone, that was actually that spot was reserved for the illegitimate sons of gods. Effectively, very rarely did you have a normal guy rise up to that standard. That was meant for larger than life figures, people that weren't you. It's only a relatively recent development in human culture, generally speaking, that we depict everyday people like you and me as the heroes. That is something entirely new. And so when we look back at positive male role models throughout the centuries, uh, you actually find you'll find again this interesting dichotomy of, as an adult male is expected to be epic, strong, violent, protecting other people and going out there getting the gal and all that. For boys are meant to be smart, obedient, and kind. And that then begs, I think, an interesting question of, then how do you take kind, smart, innocent, obedient boy and turn him into epic soldier? Which again is actually where the which is where the adventure genre of the 1800s, which then became the modern fantasy, actually kind of takes that, where they're like, okay, then, so here we've got the innocent, kind-hearted, good boy who we want to now turn into the epic hero. What does that journey look like? And the archetype for the hero's journey was then taken, which was meant again for the illegitimate children of gods and the likes, and was then given to mere mortals to then have that experience. So a little bit of an interesting evolution of the hero. And that was actually something that I'll just say I found that fascinating. I did a thesis back when I was an undergrad student. I had to write, because it was a double major. I had to write 2 undergrad theses, and one of those papers was on the evolution of the American hero, because World War II absolutely changed our perception of what a hero is, who a hero is, what does a hero do. Because if you were actually to compare heroic figures in American literature before World War II to the ones who crop up after World War II, they are completely different, from the aesthetic to what's expected of them, to what values they hold, to who they are, because American heroes before World War II were not the everyday man and woman. They were not. They never were. Instead, they were the epic, larger-than-life figures, like almost as epic as Paul Bunyan, kind of a thing. Or they came from just a fantastic stock. They were a descendant of one of the founding fathers. Or they were born in the wilderness and raised to fight bears with their bare hands. Like, that's something that no normal person would ever do. And so American heroes, until World War II, were larger than life, epic, almost deific individuals, not regular men and women. World War II changed that for the United States, where the everyday man and woman was suddenly made the hero. Why? Because we need you to win the war against Nazism. And so now, yay, we have all of these boys and girls now joining up with the military in various ways and helping out to beat the fascists and save the world. Well, you have all these. Obviously, everyone's an individual. There's so many different kinds of girls and boys out there. So how do we then show that these people are truly heroes when there's such a diversity of individuals and backgrounds? So Hollywood compiled a bunch of heroic traits and made them popular. And the idea of the modern hero is largely based off of World War II propaganda, at least for the United States, at least for United States literature. and it's only been relatively recently that those ideas have been challenged. If they've been challenged well or not, that's another discussion to be had. But that right there, that's the history behind it. If MatPat were to go back to before World War II and try to find good male role models for Ollie, I think he would be shocked by what kinds of characters would be offered him and his family to consider. Says here, ISO just commented, even kings like Julius Caesar or the Pharaoh were considered as gods in human form, come to lead the people. Yes, absolutely. And that's just that was what people were taught, that's what people expected. So again, it's actually a very relatively recent thing in human history that we are giving this heroic mantle to everyday individuals. And I would argue that that's good. I think that that is a great way for people to connect, for people to see worth in these characters and in these stories. And when you realize that that's the case, you then understand why representation becomes so important, but also why it's important to have proper representation and not just a representation of one kind. You need to have that diversity. You need to have that diversity of male and female. You need to have that diversity of various identities, racial and sexual. You need to have that diversity of thoughts. You have that diversity of background because since we are now, unlike any other time in history, making regular people the heroes of our stories, that becomes important in order then to connect to our audiences, to tell the stories that we could tell or the stories that we want to tell. However, that understanding has unfortunately come, and it's true, it has come at the expense of men recently. Now then, yes, there are a lot of male-centric stories from earlier. Absolutely. The thing though is this is that, as I've said, time, culture, and individual. A lot of the older heroes of other stories, especially the men, might not necessarily jive anymore with what we find to be appropriate today. Or maybe they were never appropriate and we're only now just beginning to realize that. That will go as a story by story and character by character basis. So, do you, and this is something that Scott said, and I have to agree with him on this. Do you really want to leave boys and men who are looking for positive male role models? Do you want to leave to them certain antiquated characters and then not involve any of these men or boys into your stories that you're right now writing? That's not necessarily inclusive. And that could be detrimental. In fact, we can even see how that's been detrimental to society recently, with people then hearkening back to erroneously these ideas of, oh, well, back in the day, there's this epic character, and men must be the warriors, the killers, the breadwinners. Whereas we nowadays know that men don't have to necessarily fall into that role. We're not living during the Viking Age. I for myself, I don't have to be in the shield wall with an axe and be ready to split someone's skull. I can be here in front of my computer, pontificating here on the internet. Haha! Isn't that wonderful? Or if I wanted to, I could go and join up with the military. Actually, fun fact: I'm not allowed to join the U.S. military. I did try, but I am medically exempt because my feet are reconstructed. Oh man, that was a bit of a blow. I'll be honest. In the life of Lars, I did wish to serve, but not allowed to. So, well, there goes that. So then, as a boy who was raised in a military family, well, what do you do then when you can't serve in the military? Who are you then going to be? Hey, I can be an educator. I can be an author. I can be a YouTuber, or I can go push carts at at a store. I can go on. I can be a politician. Yeesh. Unfortunately, if I'm exempted from serving the military, probably couldn't be a firefighter or cut it as a cop. But that doesn't mean I couldn't work as a dispatcher to help people out. There are all these things that you can do. Men are not relegated to just a specific identity anymore, and neither are women. So our stories need to capture that. And so coming back then to it, positive male role models. What I would ultimately then say to Matt Pat after this long, almost 50-minute talk about this topic right here, what would I say to Matt Pat? What I'd tell Matt Pat is this, that I think that, like, for raising Ollie and his other kid, like, okay, then, yes, I understand. You don't want to show them too violent stuff right off the bat because they're young, and I think that's a good call on Matt and Steph's part. However, I would say this, that it's totally fine for them to show stuff like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and the animated X-Men, because while yes, there's violence, it's not gratuitous. I would also highly encourage them to show stuff like The Land Before Time. Let your kid watch in a show or in a movie real loss and come to know what that loss is, what that looks like, because that actually can help to develop really good resilience towards the idea of loss. Understanding, like, oh wow, daddy, I feel sad. Yeah, you do feel sad. You feel sad because Littlefoot just lost his mother. And you can even like pause the movie and just be like, okay, so Littlefoot just lost his mother. How does that make you feel? Like the kid be like, I cry, like this is awful. It's like, it's bad, but it's going to get better. Let's have a look at how Littlefoot deals with loss. And then like you can even be like, yeah, then go tell mommy how much you love her. Or like you don't like you don't want you learn from Littlefoot. Always be grateful for your parents. Tell people that you love them when you have the chance. Like there are lessons to be learned in those really tough and rough movies and shows. And you can, as a parent, if you're watching this with your kid or reading it with your kid, you can have some really great conversations. I know because I had those conversations with my own parents growing up. Uh, so and that goes along then with another conversation entirely about how parents shouldn't just be plopping their kids down in front of the television screen and let Disney babysit their kids. Instead, parents should be engaged with their kids and actually be the ones who are helping them to discover all of these great shows, movies, and books and comics, and then really learning what they should from these stories, and also just learning to be entertained, be properly entertained with good stuff and not with all the drivel that assails us today. For myself, I've been thinking of applying to join the military. My great grandfather was, both my grandfathers, my dad was, and even my sister is. I feel like it would be good for me. Hey, if that's something that you want to do, I mean, you've got my support. I feel like and many people give the military a bad rap, but being raised in a military family and seeing again like what honor, responsibility can do for people, how it can inspire people, there's a lot of good that can come from serving honorably in the armed forces, and I think that goes for most countries' militaries as well. So if that's something that you want to do, I mean, talk it over with your family. Your family's got experience with that, and make the decision that you believe is best. And I think that will go very well for you, I so. Um, but 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 kind of so coming back to it with Matt Pat, if I were to have this conversation with Matt Pat, I'd be like, okay, then it's very good that you're trying to teach your children good morals, obey the rules. Here's some positive male role models, and again, I'd say, look, I think that it's great to have your pacifist male role models, and also I think it's good to have your action packed male role models, and help your kids to understand what each one of them brings to the table. So, like for instance, thinking about the fictional male role models that I was raised on. So my parents were very big and like, ooh, Lars, like you should read Encyclopedia Brown and the Hardy Boys. And those characters taught me that I should learn. I should read as many books as I can. I should know stuff. I should look for clues. I should seek adventure. And so I always wanted to go on adventures, always wanted to learn more, in part thanks to some of the characters that I was raised with. And then I had a healthy diet of the Care Bears and of Berenstain Bears and the Smurfs, which then taught me values such as be like, listen to your parents, obey the rules, be kind to other people. It's much easier to be kinder to others than it is to do something wrong and then try to make it right again later. So you have good morals in it from a story. From stories like those, which again don't really need much in the way of action. I also grew up on watching Recess. And I'll say this, like, yes, TJ Detweiler and his friends get into so much trouble and are always breaking the rules. But watching a show like Recess, for a kid, it makes the kid feel seen. A kid realizes just how ridiculous it is, and a kid can actually relate to a lot of the antics that these characters are on. And as an adult, it's just such a fun, nostalgic trip. And again, the characters in Recess, even when they break the rules, there's consequences for them breaking the rules. You can go back and watch most of the episodes of Recess, and you'll see that TJ, even for all the rule breaking that he does, and even though he usually comes off the better at the end, he still has to pay often for the things that he does wrong, which is a good lesson again for people to learn. But then also, I grew up with the '90s Batman and Superman, and with Spider-Man, with the X-Men, and my mom was funny enough. My mom was like, "Hey, let's watch Braveheart," and then almost in the same breath, "Don't you dare watch Spider-Man. That's going to rot your brain." So I actually didn't come to appreciate the values that many superhero characters convey until later. Because again, in my own personal upbringing, I was not raised on a steady diet of superhero characters. That was more like what me and my older sister did when mom wasn't around. We're like, let's watch this thing that we're not supposed to. So maybe the Smurfs didn't really take as much root as my family would have hoped. But so again, there you have it. Male role models will come in all different kinds of forms. But again, thinking like, okay, here we have our action-packed characters. I could appreciate Mel Gibson's Braveheart. I could appreciate Arnold Schwarzenegger's commando character's name is immediately fleeing me the moment I bring him up from the Predator, and just be all like, oh, those guys are so cool. It would be fun to be like them. But thanks to the upbringing I had, I come to realize that you don't really want to live in a rated R movie. It doesn't usually go well for most characters. And so you learn from your family, not just from your entertainment, but you learn from your family, from your culture, from the people who help to raise you outside of your family. What are really the values that you yourself want to have? And that ends up then leading you to gravitate towards the characters that you really end up liking throughout fiction. So, and this really starts bringing us full circle, Frodo. I brought up Frodo as one of the really good examples of a positive male role model who doesn't have to rely on physical strength. I have always loved Frodo as a character, and as a young guy, I always wanted him to be the warrior who'd help save the day because I just loved him so much. But now as an adult, I appreciate that he isn't the warrior, because it actually makes him so much better. It makes him worthy to take the ring to Mordor and to fight off all the temptations of the ring, and to have some truly epic moments that are in the book that aren't in the movies. That again, intelligence, kindness, the ability to communicate, the ability to empathize, those things make an individual. They make a man just as heroic as being able to wield a sword and kill 50 orcs in a scene. I've always wanted to go on adventures. The idea of exploring an unfamiliar world for the first time never fails to get me excited. Even now, I want to go places. Yeah. Being a military child, I've gotten a taste and I want more. Well, that's fantastic. Yeah. Going on adventures is great. Having that wanderlust. So yeah, that would honestly just be my rebuttal to MatPat's. that I do agree. MatPat has a point that the financial viability of action heroes, of violent heroes, is what drives superhero stories, action movies, shows, and the likes. However, MatPats, teach your children that action is okay. Show them some of the more action-packed cartoons. Help build them up. You don't need to show them Braveheart when they're 5 years old. I would definitely not go that far, but help build them up to that point. Watching Avatar: The Last Airbender, I think, is really great. To actually show kind of that steady escalation of action immaturity, because Avatar: The Last Airbender starts off really immature, but it grows over time, and you begin to realize just how deep and how poignant and how action packed the entire story is. After that, and Aang and Sokka are great male role models. Uncle Iroh is the man, absolutely. Zuko is a fantastic role model for redemption. And I was actually having this conversation with some of my friends last night, how one of the best things about Zuko's adventure, his journey to be redeemed, is how at the end of season 2, he actually chooses to follow Azula. He throws away the chance to become someone else. He has the opportunity to start a new life on over in Ba Sing Se, living with Uncle Iroh, working a tea shop, and just having all that fun. If Zuko was smart, he would have had a relationship with Jin. I mean, I brought that up in a video earlier today, that I feel like that's actually the strongest romance in the entire show, and that's only 4 minutes long. But Zuko has this opportunity to be someone else, to be in a positive setting with Uncle Iroh, to earn his own living, and to potentially even fall in love with someone who would like him, not because he's the prince or because he's so powerful, but because of who he is. Zuko throws all of that away because of what he wants, because he wants to return home. He wants to be the prince again. He wants his father's admiration and respect and love. And so he throws away a chance to be someone else. But then towards the, well, not at the end of the entire story, halfway through season 3, he then realizes, I need to be the best version of myself. I can't be someone else. But there is redemption. He aims for that redemption. And it's such a beautiful, positive, and encouraging message. Zuko is ultimately, or at least he becomes, a great positive male role model. And that is something that, again, to you, MatPat, I hope that you would share that with your family, because that's such a powerful, positive message. And that's the kind of message that more men need in their lives. Excuse me. I had a large dinner of spaghetti, and now the spaghetti monster, the flying spaghetti monster, is attacking me from within. Ugh. Hey there, Chloe. Yeah, you're late, and I do apologize to anyone who's like, man, this would have been fun. It was a little bit impromptu. I didn't give any forewarning ahead of time, in part because it's been a crazy week. Oh boy, just how things have been changing and shifting for me so wildly and crazy. I could not in good conscience commit to say I will be ready at this time, because I most certainly wasn't. I was definitely not ready by 7:00 to Arizona time to do a video. So yeah, here we are. But I'm glad that you could still make it at least here for a little bit. And yeah, I suppose is right, like kind of getting to that point of like, well, we're wrapping up a little bit right here, having our chat about positive male role models. Yes, so this does indeed qualify as the 4th video of the day. Oh boy, I need a rest. Chloe, are we excited for the Murder Drones news tomorrow? Oh yeah. I saw the leaks. I don't know if it was you, Chloe, or someone else who recently sent a message in one of the videos, at least comments in one of the videos. I said, like, so what did you think? Like, did you check out the leaked merchandise? I did. I saw what was posted there onto Reddit, And oh boy, oh boy. So speculation with absolutely no foundation other than what we've seen in the show thus far. I think that this upcoming episode, I think episode 7, and this is why I believe episode 7 and 8 were meant to be released back to back. And it's going to be killing people now that they aren't, because episode 7, I firmly believe episode 7 is meant to end with Absolute Solver completely taking over Uzi and transforming Uzi into an abomination. That is what I suspect is going to be the case. And it is going to be a brutal. That is what I expect to see in the next episode. So it will end on a cliffhanger with I'm pretty certain it's going to end with N kind of being alone and not sure of what to do. The Absolute Solver will be unleashed through Uzi. It will then initiate its plan. I am still convinced that the Spire of Corpses is 100% important to that, because I believe that what it's trying to do is it's trying to bring itself to Copper 9. Like it can influence the drones on Copper 9, but it's looking to actually like bring its whole body, the singularity, to Copper 9 in order for it to consume the planet for whatever its purposes are there. That's what I believe is going to happen. So it's going to be all like a shocker. Everyone's going to be like, wait, what? No, not my Uzi. I need her to be okay. That is what I believe is going to be the ending, and everyone's then going to be stewing for the next 2 to 3 months while we wait for Murder Drones episode 8 to be completely ready. And that's why they wanted to do it back to back, because they know it's going to be an absolutely emotional gut punch. Taking a drink of water. So from Chloe, I've had such a bad feeling and Uzi are going to die, and I'm going to cry a waterfall or even multiple. Yeah, I believe one of them is going to die. Now then, is death permanent in this universe? We know it isn't, depending on who dies. We know that murder drones have a greater chance for coming back. So if N dies, it's almost guaranteed that it's not permanent. If Uzi dies, it's again not guaranteed permanent. She can probably be brought back in various ways, either herself to be transformed into a mini murder drone. She won't be made tall, much to her chagrin. She could take over the singularity, become kind of her own eldritch entity, or a disembodied entity. There's all different kinds of things that could happen to Uzi that don't equate total death, but would mean an absolute change on her part, and would mean that she can't have the life that she once had. And can't die. His character arc isn't over yet. Yeah, his character arc is far from over, and he will be the last one to receive his acrylic stained glass window. So he will be the hero of episode 8, and we will see what form he takes. That will then be shown in that window. That's what the merchandise is foreshadowing. Chloe says, I have such an emotional attachment to N and Uzi, and if they die, I would lose my marbles. Yeah, they're great characters. And here's the thing is that I know, like, I've been seeing more and more people come out recently and be all like, Murder Drones is kind of mid, y'all. And Murder Drones is not the most intelligent thing that I've ever seen written. But Murder Drones has just a fantastic secret sauce of blending horror and humor with just incredibly personable characters, despite how bonkers and insane they are. Like, none of the characters in Murder Drones are doing okay, but the way that they act, and the way that we get to see them interact, just really, really endear them to the audience and just make them so personable. And I love that. That is something that is genuinely hard to pull off. And Liam Vickers has a gift. He has an absolute gift with characters. Um, ISO. So this ties into my absolute solver originates from the singularity theory. Yeah, say we're going to see what happens right there. The singularity is something that, man, I don't think it's just simply a black hole. I think it's a living, like it's going to be like a black hole, but it's going to be more like a living entity that takes the form of a black hole. With all, I personally believe that the singularity possesses all of the consciousnesses and memories of all of the drones that it's absorbed over time, and maybe even of all the humans that it's killed along the way. Uh, it will be interesting to see. I mean, again, that's just my guess, with very very little to back me up on that. Chloe, the pen better be good quality for $12. Yeah. Hey, so long as it has the amazing durability of a well-made JC Jensen product, then it could very well be worth $12. And I have actually paid a big amount of money again, a big amount of money for pens before. So $12, I mean, it's a lot, but that actually kind of matches. From Chloe, well, Murder Drones isn't the most well written show. I definitely will admit I see flaws, even if I am biased because the show has my heart and soul by a chokehold. Liam is gifted with his writing. Yes, absolutely. And it's so hard to find the perfectly written show, movie, or book. They are very rare, few and far in between. But what I'm going to say is this: is that when you can see the flaws in something that's really good, that actually gives it way more merit than I think people are willing to normally admit. Because when a show does so well despite its flaws, you then have to ask yourself, so what is it doing really well that it's able to overcome this? And while there are indeed flaws, and I intend to actually do a very thorough breakdown in the future for Murder Drones once we have the whole of season one. There are definitely some things I can point out and say, yeah, Liam dropped the ball here, or he did it poorly here, but the things that he does well more than make up for those drawbacks, and what's helped made it so popular. Chloe's skill for sure. The show is very unique. It has its charms that just impress me every time. Absolutely, it's just, oh man, it's incredible. ISO season 2 potential, the singularity. Yeah, I just, oh my gosh, like I've been won over more to the idea that there will be a second season for Murder Drones. I just have this lingering fear in the back of my head that because Liam Vickers has never done a full series like this before, that he's aiming for just a one season gig. I I that's just me reading the tea leaves based off what I've seen from Liam in the past. And he definitely strikes me as the kind of guy, based on how he's jumped around from project to project in the past, that he just kind of goes with wherever his fancy's at. So who knows? Who knows what will happen? If we get a second season, that would be incredible. We're just going to have to see how the next two episodes play out. I so the characters and the plot are the two main things, I think. Yeah, the plot is very, especially as we learn more and more about what is really going on. But the characters have held us from the very beginning. I mean, like, I love Uzi from the opening. She's just such a fun character, and N just captures your heart. And N, like, I feel like I didn't appreciate N as much for the first two episodes, but then when we got to the promining, at that point I'm like, yep, N is the good boy. N is where it's at. Oh yeah. And he really starts coming into his own with the third episode from that point on. I'm Omega. Honestly, I was originally thought there would be more for Murder Drones, the type, not the series. Uh, but we got a Berserk from Uzi instead. Yep. Yeah. So I was also expecting as well. I'm Omega. I was expecting like way more variations on the Murder Drones themselves, like different kinds of monsters or whatnot that would be sent. Like, I thought at the beginning that was going to be like a monster of the week kind of a deal, or like a monster of the episode, where JC Jensen would send a new robot to kill them, and they would have to figure out a way of defeating that robot before making their way eventually to Earth to then start killing all the humans. So that's what I thought. We've definitely been thrown for a loop. From ISO, well, we saw that there were a lot of murder drone corpses in the cabin fever lab entrances. Yeah, because either, and that's the thing, it's unclear if that was Absolute Solver or JC Jensen trying to get down there, because JC Jensen seems to have also been creating their own murder drones, specifically for tasks off world and to try to deal with the robots that would be taken over by Absolute Solver. So we're still missing some very crucial information about what JC Jensen has been up, and the different types of drones that are running around out there. So that's again something to see if we get any answers on that front. Let's see here. From ISO again, we also saw labeled solver cores in Alice's oven. Yeah, because she's been dissecting she's been dissecting the murder drones and keeping their cores in stasis, so that way they don't just keep on respawning and coming back for more. And Chloe, I wonder what the deal is with Nori and Yeva. So many people think that they're still alive. Say again, what do I have to really back myself up by saying this? Is really nothing much. What I think is this is that Nori and Yeva, as their daughters knew them, are gone. They are dead. However, I believe that their personalities, or at least a version of them, are still alive and are in the bodies of the drones that Uzi and N are going to meet down in that underground manor. Or it could be that they are sisters or whatnot, but I believe that we're going to see Nori and Yeva in some kind of form still. And the reason why I believe that does come back around again to how I think that the Absolute Solver does keep all of the personalities of the drones that it assimilates. And why necessarily would it do that? I think that beyond just simply I must consume to stay alive, a singular entity which is not just simply going around eating the universe, but doing all of these weird rituals and shenanigans. What that says to me is that the Absolute Solver is an entity that wants companionship in its own way. It's not like Frankenstein's monster, where I just want to be understood and loved, but rather it's all like I subsist on consuming other people, and and it's more sadistic because it enjoys controlling others and torturing them, as we see back in episode 5. And so I think that that's part of it, is that it enjoys holding on to other people. It enjoys what it can do to others in its own monstrous way. And so it keeps all of the memories, all of the entities, all of the souls, what have you, that it can, so that way it can just continue doing its horrible stuff to them even after death. That would be my guess. That's pretty dark and demented, but hey, I would not put that past Liam Vickers. I'm Omega. From a Henshin Hero fan, you could say I have experience in Berserk form, Build Hazard, 01 Metal, Cluster Hopper, Saber, Primitive Dragon, etc. Oh, I don't know Henshin Hero, so unfortunately I can't comment on that. ISO, that theory reminds me of how I originally thought that Jay was still alive. She copied her consciousness and sent it to Tessa to install in a J clone or something. Could Nori and Yeva in episode 7 and 8 be copies from when they were still alive? It's possible. We still have yet to see how the cloning process exactly works. Like, we have a pretty good hint that Jay the Jay who's working with Tessa has the same personality and even some of the memories of the Jay who is with N and V. But this is where we are left actually really in the lurch for Jay and V. How much of their brains and memories were scrambled? We don't know. We know N specifically had his memory altered by Absolute Solver. how much did V and J remember? That is a big question that needs to be answered, and that's one of those things that I think if we get a season 2 would be something really for Liam to explore, especially because I believe that J is being set up to be used later on, and that V as well is meant to return. All right, there's so much potential still left to her. I I do not see Liam just abandoning V yet. She's probably going to make an appearance either as a clone or as an eldritch abomination, or she'll be rescued by Jay. And hence the Jay plushie. Not just because Jay is one of the fandom's favorite characters, but because Jay might still then show up and do some stuff. Chloe Glitch made a leak a few months ago with these two silhouettes that looked like Nori and Yeva. Yeah, that as they're silhouetted against the glowing door, which I somewhat erroneously said, "Ooh, it's a magical door," and I was like, "Dude, it's just the light in the manor." And it probably is just the light in the manor, but I will still not rule out that manor is some sort of weird magical portal. Because at this point we are definitely delving into eldritch whatnot. This is where this is meant to these next two episodes are meant to be the culmination of all of the horror and mythological elements that have been built up thus far throughout the show, and there's so much to it. Dang it, we still don't even have answers yet about what all of those weird creepy symbols and hieroglyphs were in Tessa's room, nor what she was doing with all those human body parts. It's just, yeah. So again, stuff that needs to be answered. What is going on there? And so I definitely expect good spooky whatnot. I expect rituals. I expect eldritch magic and abominations and things along those lines for the next two episodes. Fingers crossed. That's what I want. That's what I crave. So yeah, I'm excited. I'm looking forward to the news tomorrow. Hopefully it's not just them confirming the leaks of what the merchandise is, but that it will then actually be saying, so yeah, here's the date for the next episode. And that way then I can say, okay, on that day, I will not be doing anything other than preparing myself to watch that episode and then to immediately start on the script for the review and analysis of that episode. When Dead End premiered, I was actually at that time, like I was listening to it as it premiered, but I couldn't watch it because I was setting up a grill. So I totally missed out on that. It's like, oh man, because that episode relies on so many visual cues that I couldn't follow it after about 3-4 minutes, and so I just had to turn it off and be like, okay, I'll watch it later in the afternoon. And man, that episode is just, it's spookiness done well. Liam made a very, very good homage to stories within the same vein as The Hills. Like episode 6 is effectively like, it begins as The Hills Have Eyes meets Fallout is basically what it is, but then it makes a fantastic transition into basically Jurassic Park, the horror elements of Jurassic Park when the Velociraptors are hunting everyone in the visitor center. Oh, they did a phenomenal job of making the Sentinels perfectly horrifying monsters, really for anyone to deal with. So well done. It's funny. Let's see here. It's funny how Glitch can post a picture of silhouettes and everyone's like, Nori and Yeva. Yeah, it's because of the lights in their eyes. Liam sure likes to leave us wondering. LOL. That's one thing I adore about Murder Drones. I do enjoy the mystery elements. I have not been this engaged in any mystery for a show since Gravity Falls. I will say this. I like how the way I'm enjoying Murder Drones right now is kind of the same level of excitement that I had for Amphibia. But for Amphibia, it wasn't so much about the mystery. It was about the friendships. Murder Drones is about the horror and the mystery and the worrying if your favorite characters are going to die or not. Chloe, again, episode 6 was awesome. It's a favorite of mine for sure. Shit moments, so much delicious lore and stuff to theorize. And Jay's like 1 minute of screen time. Yeah, I know. Oh, poor Jay. I expect that she will have more screen time in the future. Lurk McGurk, I'm so excited for episode 7 of Murder Drones. Yes, same here. It's going to be great. There's a part of there's a part of me that really wants to rent out a screen at a movie theater. The Harkins chain down here in Tucson makes it really easy for anyone to rent out screens to do like game nights or to do special movie nights and the likes. And I have done twice now. I have done game days, like where we've played like Super Smash Brothers on a movie theater screen. Oh, that is incredible. I would absolutely love when all 8 Murder Drones episodes come on out to rent one of the theater screens and do like a Murder Drones day where it's just like, okay, guys, we're going to be watching Murder Drones on the big screen here and just see what happens. Lerp says he thinks that Murder Drones is going to premiere. The 7th episode should premiere on the 29th. Let me actually just quickly see if what kinds of, if any news has leaked all of a sudden. Now, just people saying that Murder Drones news is coming out tomorrow, so that's pretty much it. So we will find out tomorrow. Ooh boy, I'm just getting so excited. This is gonna be fun. Since the release date is coming out tomorrow, and usually the release date is 2 weeks after the release date is announced. Yeah, I can see that. I think that's a good guess right there, Lerp. Oh, oh man, I'm excited. Oh, Glitch made a community post. Well, let's have a quick look. Quick look-see here. Going on over to Glitch Productions. Community. Show me your community. Show me your community and I'll show you mine. Wait, what? Jumping on over here. Yep, Murder Drones news tomorrow. With Uzi carrying the lantern right there with her tail. Oh boy. Oh, I see what's going on right there. Oh, creepy candles. Yeah, we're getting a ritual in the next episode. Oh, I'm so excited. Yeah, you're right, Chloe. It's very pretty, very ominous. Oh, that's some exciting stuff. That is very exciting. Oh my gosh, I wish that more people were this excited for other shows, not just for Murder Drones. A lot of the entertainment channels that I've been following on YouTube, I'm just not as motivated anymore to keep up with what they're saying or doing because so many of them are just beginning to black pill. Part of it is because they're just growing more and more political, and they're like, what if my candidate doesn't win this election? I'm like, guys, entertainment, unless we're watching propaganda and we're commentating on propaganda or a political movie, like why are we talking about this? and so you got people blackpilling. You've got people who are just so upset with like what's been happening over with Disney. How Disney just seems to be burning to the ground. New movies and shows are being announced are not making people as happy as others had hoped. And so it's just kind of sad because like here we are, we're like, Murder Drones episode 7 is coming out soon. I'm so excited. It's going to be amazing. And there's all these other people who are all like, well, Dune 2 kind of sucked. it wasn't a faithful adaptation of the book, so therefore life sucks and everything's awful, and I just want to wouldn't it be nice to go back to the good old days. And I'm like, this is why people need to get into the indie shows and stuff like Murder Drones, because this is where the happiness is at, folks. Lord McGurk, imagine if MatPat's theory about the absolute solver needing lots of drone bodies is right, and there's a ritual for it. Yep, MatPat and I were thinking along the same lines for that one. Chloe, that would be hilarious if he was right. I remember people were so mad when his Murder Drones theory came out. It's so funny how people have gotten so upset with MatPat over the years for various theories. Like, it's theories, guys. Like, it's okay. Like, yeah, there have been some things that other people have said or theorized, even some things that he said or theorized, where I'm just like, I roll my eyes and I see the back of my head. But like, the theorizing is meant to be fun. Theorizing is meant to share ideas. If you have a bunch of nerds getting together to talk, they are going to swap ideas and theories. And what makes nerds good friends is that they don't strangle each other when they disagree. Instead, they talk it out. And people just need to learn to be like, okay, so that's your theory. I'm going to tell you my theory, and then we're going to see who's right. Chloe, they were like, why is he making up new characters over a piece of paper? What the heck? It made me laugh. Oh my gosh. Okay. Yeah. I liked that. I liked that concept. I liked his idea right there. I do believe when it came out, when he came out with that theory, I said I disagreed about a specific drone that was waiting down there that would share all of the information, especially like, oh, N killed Uzi's mom. I'm like, I'm pretty certain that if Uzi finds out that N killed her mom, that's going to be like, that actually won't break her. Oh, light bulb moment happening right here. Oh my gosh, something just clicked. A possibility just clicked in my head. Okay. Nori and Yeva, we were asking earlier, could that be them that we see at the manor? What if we say yes? And what if we say that they are clones? And again, just like how we believe that that clone Jay remembers everything that previous Jay did, that what if that's actually meant to be the tipping point? So Uzi and N, Tessa go down to the manor. They encounter these two drones, and they pretend to be other individuals until they get Uzi by herself, and then it's revealed, I'm Nori, I'm Yeza. And then Uzi be like, wait, what? And they're like, yeah, so we're the clones. There's this whole process. They explain it, and then Nori's like, your friend over there that you were holding hands with, he murdered me. And to which then, like, Uzi can be like, yeah, but that was when Absolute Solver was messing around with him and everything. He's a better drone now. And then what pushes her over the edge is not that learning that this is her mom or that her mom was killed by N, but then by Nori being like, but sweetie, do you actually understand what Absolute Solver is? And then Uzi can be like, it's a monster, it's a horrible program made by JC Jensen or whatever. Since she doesn't actually know the truth of where this thing even comes from, that could then be like, so that then Absolute Solver can then misguide her, misdirect her, and be all like, maybe you should find out what Absolute Solver really is. And so hence then while she's alone with her tail, holding the lantern, going into a creepy room where it's very clear there's a bunch of candles, a ritual about to be initiated. Uzi, do you really want to learn what Absolute Solver is? Do you want to understand what actually happened to your friend N and why he killed me? All the answers are right here. And then Uzi can be all like, the answers. We need the answers because we need to be able to defeat Absolute Solver. Of course I'll do this creepy thing, Mom. Of course I'll do this creepy thing, Clone Mom. And then the clones lead her on in, initiate the ritual. Uzi becomes fully possessed, and Absolute Solver then begins doing what it wants to do. brain blast right there. I have no idea if that's what's going to happen, but holy dang, that's just right now what fired off in my head. And that would bring together a lot of different elements of stuff that we've noticed throughout the series thus far. So there we have it. Am I sold on that particular theory? No, but it could happen. And if I am right, you guys heard it here. Along with all the other theories that I've thrown out for the show. So Lorp says there has to be a reason why Uzi crushes N's hand in that teaser from 5 months ago. Yep. That is definitely going to be Absolute Solver doing its thing. And what I think is ultimately going to happen, what we're going to see is we're going to see a lot of N trying desperately to like justify not hurting her, being all like, this isn't her, that like I shouldn't do what Tessa is saying. It's going to be along the whole lines of what we see in a lot of like shonen anime, where it's like, I have taken over the person that you love, or I'm wearing the face of the person you love. There's no way that you could ever fight against that person. You're too good. I see like that's kind of the trope that Liam's going to riff on a little bit here with N, that N just won't want to do anything that could hurt Uzi because he likes Uzi, whether it be that because she's his best friend, or because the hand holding and ultimately like, oh, this is my soulmate here, whether it be for shipping or for platonic friendship. It is a big moment. Or I'd say she holds a big place in his life, and killing her obviously would wreck him. So he's going to do everything he can to avoid that, and because he's going to be avoiding it, and rather than doing what Tessa told him to do, that's going to lead to bad things happening. That is what I suspect will be the case. Chloe, I ship N and Uzi too, so seeing their friendship possibly crumble, like Uzi finding out and unleashing her anger on him, would be so saddening. Yep, yeah, I can see that. Her hand's light was purple though, and when we see that her hand light is yellow is when she's controlled by Absolute Solver. That's interesting. We're going to have to see how that scene plays out. Lorp, I think someone's ending up alone at the end, potentially. We're going to have to see what happens. Because I mean, I've already released plenty of videos looking into different theories of what's going to happen, of what could happen. I mean, here, I'll say this right here. If I were in Liam's shit, if I were consulting Liam, and I mean Liam as the storyteller, as the guy who knows these characters, knows this world the best, he obviously would have final say in whatever. Or I'd be like, okay, Liam, so this is what you're doing. What do you want? Do you just want to end this all right here, and we have an epic conclusion to season 1, and that's it for Murder Drones, or are we doing a second season? If Liam said, no, we're only doing 1 season because I want to go do Internecian Cube, I'd be like, hallelujah, man, you have my full backing and support. But I'd then say, okay, then if we're going to do 1 season, and your show is a horror story, I'd be like, okay, then horror stories rarely end totally happily. It is a very, very rare horror story that has a truly happy ending. A good example of a horror story that actually has a happy ending, but you have to understand why, is The Woman in Black. The Woman in Black absolutely has a happy ending, despite the fact that the Woman in Black kills the 2 main characters. It's because she cannot claim their souls. She's a relentless evil entity that cannot be stopped no matter what, but she wins if she can steal your soul for all eternity. And she loses to the heroes because she's unable to take their souls at the end. Because Daniel Radcliffe's dead wife comes as an angel and rescues them. And so there, okay, right there you have your happy ending. And despite it being sad, and that is more traditional along the lines of what you can expect from a horror story. So I'd say, okay, then 1 season, you're ending it here. If you want a happy ending, because a happy ending is going to be what makes your audience the happiest and keep them coming, and not try to seek your head, you're going to you're going to want to have that bittersweet ending. So if I were the one who is counseling Liam on how to end it in one season, I would say, okay, Liam, one of the two main characters has to either die or has to change. And I would make it Uzi. And the reason why I say that it would be Uzi is because Uzi's journey has not been about fitting in. It's not been about finding friends. It's been about freeing her fellow worker drones and finding the answers to what's been going on. What was J.C. Jensen doing, getting revenge, all that stuff. But then as you learn that's Absolute Solver, that's really behind it all, Uzi's journey needs to be about defeating Absolute Solver. And Absolute Solver, as this massive eldritch entity, can't just simply be defeated with some wand waving and everything's hunky-dory. Someone has to pay. Uzi would be the best candidate for paying, where she would effectively, like she did by hacking into N and V's memories, be the one who kind of hacks into Absolute Solver from within and brings the entity down from within, freeing all the other drones. N, who has been about finding friendship, finding acceptance, and figuring out who he really is. Yes, losing Uzi physically would be absolutely harsh on him, but everyone would be saved. And Uzi now, as this new eldritch entity, could still be around. That friendship, that relationship could still be there. And that she then kind of watches over everyone on Copper 9 as N helps gather the worker drones together and form a new community, one where the murder drones can come in and be accepted, because that's what we were seeing happening for N and V. Would V return? I would say I'd have V return in this particular scenario and see what's and just see what happens there. Whether she and N are just friends, maybe they do become a romantic item because, hey, they had the spark. Who knows? Like, that would again be something I want to workshop with Liam. If you were to say, okay, no, Murder Drones is meant to go on for more than one season, what do we do? Again, I would actually still have Uzi lose her physical body in the fight to Absolute Solver, and then N learn from Tessa, and through Tessa be like, okay then, Uzi's still alive, she's still out there, and we need to get her. Absolute Solver is still alive and out there, and we need to stop it. We can't just wait for it to come back here. What we need to do is we need to take this fight to the stars. Tessa, you are going to help me get to the humans. You are going to help me find Uzi, and we are going to save her and beat Absolute Solver. And so what the second season would be, the beginning then of the second season, I would want to have the worker drones repairing the space shuttles to get the heroes back on up into space. And I would have N with Jay and Tessa, and also I would say with Kitty, Thad, and Mr. Dorman. So a party of 6, really cramped, I know, but go up into space and there start the hunt for finding Uzi, meet V's clone, and see what kinds of shenanigans, what kind of funs you can have with a clone of V after everything that happened with Dead End. Show on up, because while she would be V, is she really the V that we know and love? Is she N's V, or is she some other V? You can have a lot of fun with that. And then just see other worlds, meet other characters, have some real crazy, horrific, space horror, zany adventures, going through space, trying to find Uzi and defeating Absolute Solver. And I would actually probably have them find Uzi by the end of the second episode, or at the latest in the third episode. Like, she leaves clues through space for them to find. They find Uzi. They then help her get back a body, and then go after Absolute Solver. That would be that's Lars speaking. That's Lars saying what he would advise Liam to do if he were going to do a second season and beyond. So let's quickly see what you guys have to say right here. From ISO, perhaps Uzi finds out, perhaps told by Nori, that N is the one that killed her mother. Yep. Lerp says we need an N character arc. He's like the same guy the whole show. He pretty much is, which is why I think episode 8 is going to be his episode. And again, when we actually are able to then see the whole show in its entirety, and I do my retrospective on it, I definitely want to dive into what's being done with N's character, because there is a protagonist archetype that Liam might have been playing around with, but we won't know for certain until we've seen episode 8. And then I can go more into that. The idea of the unchanging protagonist, which is rather popular in some stories, but not always the best thing to have. I saw a quote unquote happy ending. Uzi and N defeat the Absolute Solver and reunite with a restored V. Tessa and Jay depart to find a home planet for the refugees. Earth and Uzi reconcile with her dad. Hey, I mean, that would be a very positive happy ending. I don't know if Liam's going to go for that. What was that? A reality glitch, perhaps? Chloe, I'm looking forward to seeing N get his character arc. I'm confident that will be awesome. I am too, because I do have faith that Liam Vickers can really deliver well on his characters. And then ISO, the Absolute Solver, trapped them in a false reality where they can't, won't, and don't want to fight anymore. That would be really creepy. Which has been done in other stories before, and if pulled off well, it can be really good. It kind of actually reminds me a little bit of the ending to the Krampus movie, where all of the horrible family members are trapped in a snow globe for all eternity, and the snow globe is controlled by Krampus. Well, all right. So we will see tomorrow what Glitch Productions has in store for us. This is going to be exciting. I can't wait to dive more into Murder Drones. But for now, guys, yeah, this has been going on for getting close to 2 hours, and I'm going to take a rest. It's been a long day. Effectively 4 videos. One of those videos was Scott's. If you haven't yet seen it, his manga recommendation is definitely a good one to go see. But otherwise, guys, thank you so much for joining me on Pi Day or White Day, whichever you prefer to celebrate. And it's been great talking about the positive male role models and talking some good murder drones, because yeah, that's some fun stuff. Real quick to wrap up right here, ISO says, I think that would be a good way to end the series without plans for a second season. Chloe, I feel ya, LOL. 4 videos is a lot. Yeah, 4 videos is a lot. I'm Omega. Good night, dude. Though I recommend Space King. Okay, I'll have a look at Space King. Before my tired brain forgets that, I am going to quickly pull up Space King. Oh, okay. Ooh, okay. I have seen some stuff about this. I'll check that out. We come back right here. Looking forward to tomorrow. See you next time. Absolutely, yeah. Tomorrow's gonna be great. Hope you all have a fantastic day tomorrow. We'll see you on the next stream then. Yeah. I'll try next week to make sure that I actually have the proper time announced and everything for people, so that way no one. That way, hopefully, no one feels left out or comes in too late if they can avoid that. Chloe, see y'all. Let's see. We get some solid info tomorrow from our favorite Aussie animation team. Oh, yeah. Here's to hoping that we get some great stuff. And thank you guys for being here. It's been a great stream. You guys make this worth it. So I will see you guys in the next video. Until then, tschüss.